And good morning and welcome to Touch Base Daily. My name is Ron Foster and I am so excited today because we have the wonderful Keith Major who's going to be on here. Major. Don't get that S. Don't throw the S off there if you think it's an S there. There's no S. It's major. And this is major news. So anyway, so I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in, and I see some folks are already in the building. There's a lot going on in the world, but we are going to take care of that tomorrow. I mean, unless Keith wants to go into politics, because he's just as active as I am online, and he is not shy in sharing his points and what he believes in. So I love that about him. We photographers, we are the eyes of the world. And so we get the great opportunity to share and to show what's happening in the world around us. So I am so happy to have him on today. But before we start with Keith, I'm not going to waste any time. So we're going to get right into it quickly. But I do want to say good morning to our folks in the building. First person in the building is Hannah. She says, good morning, Ron and Touch Base Daily family. And we got the great Omar. Omar, I knew you were going to be here. You were like the number 2 in the building. Mr. Omar said, hey. He goes, my brother. Charlene's in the building. And she says, good morning. So those are the top 3s. And they got here early. I saw them in the building early. We got Aya in the building. She says, grand rising, Ron and everyone. And I see here uh, Lisa's in the building and she says, good morning. And the wonderful Anthony says, good morning, family. So we are all here and I'm sure more people will pop in. But again, if you pop in, make sure you hit the likes. Make sure you hit the like while you're here. Let's see who's in. Hey, I see Mr. Cash. Mr. Howard Cash is in the Instagram world. Howard, you need to come on over to the YouTube channel. Come on over. Just go to Touch Base Daily on Google and click on that. It pops up. We are populated in Google. We're part of the SEO. So you just put that in there, Touch Base Daily, and it will just pop on up and you'll find us and click on. Okay. I see David Mascaro is in the building. He is present. He says, I am present. Okay. Yes. A lot of folks Omar is asking Anthony about Imaging USA. Yes, Imaging USA is coming up for all the photographers in the house. It is in Texas. It's in Dallas, I do believe. And I know that Omar will be there. I know Gwendolyn will be there. There's a couple of folks that are going to be there. So if you're going to be there, you could also be a correspondent. You can share what's going on. I would love for those that are going to Imaging USA, you can come on live while we do our show and tell us about what's going on there. So, Omar, you've been on here, so you could be a good correspondent. Okay, let me just pop this little banner off of there because I don't need that right now. And so, again, lots going on in the world, but I just want to, well, I'm going to just take you to the page and say no more about. Let me take that. Hold on a second. Let me get myself. I had it all set up. I went to Instagram, but Keith Major's page website is one of the best, I think, in the industry. And so I want to make sure you see it because I'm going to introduce you to him, but I want to take you to his page and share that with you. Well, with no, this is like some of the best work I've ever seen. And when I go online, I'm always looking for photographers. I'm always searching for them. And then I go through, I'll see something that I like, and then I go through their whole page. They probably say, who is this that's liking all this stuff? I probably like about 50 photos at one time. And Keith is one of those places. Keith's page on Instagram is where I actually started going through his work. And then I went to his website and I was like, this website is brilliant. And he has photographed some of the most amazing people of our time. And I used to get a kick out of not only his photos, but how his photos were used in multimedia. Like I would go on my Instagram and I would see what he did some work in ebony, but then he'll do like the back scene behind the photo shoot, and he'll like have like 5 or 6 photos, and some of the photos of him taking the photos, and I would be like, just like I'm all in there. And I would get so excited every time he did a photo shoot and that he was going to post the behind the scenes. And I thought that was a great way for Ebony to celebrate their magazine because they had Keith doing this. Keith, creative director, creative man, creative photographer. See, there are photographers like myself that are just photojournalists. Not to say that's downplay because there's wartime photojournalists. There's photojournalists that just do everything around the city, but there's creatives. And this is the top of the line, the top of the hill of photography creativeness. So let me share the background here. I'm just going to share a little bit really quick. New York City native Keith Major's love for photography and art began in his preteen years when he attended after-school programs at the Brooklyn Museum of Art and Pratt Institute. Keith specialized in photography at New York's highly regarded High School of Art and Design. And after graduation, attended the prestigious Rochester Institute of Technology, where he earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. With more than 30 years of experience with brands including Sony Music, Colgate Palmolive, Ebony, Essence, Cosmopolitan, and a roster of A-list clients and subjects, including Alicia Keys, Kevin Hart, Beyonce, Jeff Koons, and more. Keith has achieved his childhood dreams and established a sterling reputation as one of New York's most talented and productive commercial photographers. And with no further ado, and I read that from his page, so I wanted to make sure I got everything accurate and right. With no further ado, I'm going to get rid of this page and bring on Mr. Keith Major. What's going on, sir?
Hey, what a great introduction. Wow.
And good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning. Good morning. I'm great. I'm great. The light's good. It's a sunny day in New York. And, I'm here with you and everybody else in the room. What's up, Jamel? What's up, Omar? I see my folks in the room as well. So, hey. How's
We
it?
are here, man, and I am so happy to have you here. And let's see what the folks are saying. I know that people are there excited. So I like to acknowledge everyone that's in the room, and then we're gonna go straight into it. Jamel says, "Good morning, good rising family," and we have
Oh,
also Gwendolyn says, "Good day," and we see the
wow.
hands up. We see the applause going.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so
Lovely.
we have a tradition
All these
here.
folks I know. Wow.
We have a tradition here. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things I'm going to ask you, because this is all about getting to know Mr. Major.
Okay.
This is about you, sir. And first question on the map, a must have food on a stranded island.
I think y'all gonna be surprised, but I'd say a grapefruit.
Why grapefruit?
It's kind of a morning staple for me. When I was a kid, I would douse it in sugar, but now I can eat it, raw. And I don't know, it's just a healthy food. And I've always felt like if there's one food if I had only one food that I had to eat, there was nothing else left, it would be that one. Because then I always
Mm.
imagine that if I'm on an island, I can grow that.
Ah, okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I love grapefruit also.
'Cause I love pizza, but on a stranded island, then you're not getting any pizza.
No, I'm not getting my pizza. So I'm a pizza junkie. So when I'm on a stranded island, I'm gonna be in bad shape. There's gonna be no ovens. But also, here's another question we have for you. And three fun facts about you.
Wow. First fact is that I used to be in a high school band playing a bass guitar,
Ah,
and we actually stuck together after high school and for a little while played professionally.
really?
Yeah, and I have a bass guitar. I still own a bass guitar, an acoustic one as a hobby. So I'll break it out every now and then. Yeah.
What? So not only are you a photographer, but you are a musician.
I love music. I even have a harmonica and fool around with that sometimes.
Wow. Now, okay, that's one. What's number
That's one.
two?
Jeez. I like to brag about my daughter. I have a daughter who is a um, social media influencer, and she's very successful with a brand called There's Food at Home.
Mm.
And she and her husband have a couple of other food businesses. So I always feel like that's a fun fact, and it's really funny, particularly when I was teaching high school photography. One day, the kids were like, "Hey, you didn't tell us your daughter was, a TikTok star." Like, "Wait, what?" Like, I didn't know that I needed to tell you that, But so yeah, that's one.
Wow.
That's one fun
So
fact. Yeah.
how does it feel to be the father of a TikTok influencer?
It's amazing, but she was always a really special kid.
Okay.
People are like, "You're an amazing parent." I'm like, "Oh, she was always that way. Like she came out with an agenda."
Wow.
And I think
So
parents understand that. Parents in the room, I'm sure, know that your kids really have their own way,
they
and
go their own way.
yeah, you can, provide a home and provide, some guidance, but mostly, their journey is theirs.
Cool. And
And my other one would be, I, I'm older, so I have a lot of vinyl because I always loved music, and I
mm,
belong to a group of folks that play. We spin records every second Wednesday at a bar called Sycamore. It's
wow.
called Vinyl Night.
So now, now this is unique. This is unique. Now, the vinyl, like we have here in Fort Greene, well, not Fort Greene, Prospect Heights. There's a vinyl bar slash place here in Brooklyn, and the vinyl bars and establishments are
Yeah,
they popped up a lot in New York.
yeah.
What, since we're there, what is your favorite vinyl artists? Artists on vinyl, because there's a difference between vinyl for artists on digital formats versus
Wow.
artists on vinyl.
What a question. What a question. That's, to narrow that down to one is always really difficult for me.
Okay.
But if I had to, I'd say the Ohio Players.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say Ohio Players.
So because there's a whole different sound
Yeah,
to
because Ohio
vinyl.
Players pretty much lives on vinyl. There's certain groups that, Ohio Players, Earth, Wind and Fire,
Eh,
Gladys
yeah,
Knight.
I would have been like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, yeah. Earth, Wind and Fire is definitely way up there. I've got a lot of that vinyl, especially that live album, Gratitude.
When I was a kid, my mother played that all the time, and
Yeah.
I really thought I was with Phil. I thought I was hitting those high notes, and I thought it was him. And I would be in the house with my little, staging with my little mic.
Singing Reasons, right?
Yes, it was Reason.
Yeah.
So, so now we know you went to you study arts. You've been in the arts. You've gone to school in the arts. Let's take it right to the photography. What was the point in your life that you understood that you loved photography?
Oh my gosh. It actually was sitting in the lab at Brooklyn Museum. The professor was talking about things. We're sitting in a circle and he's showing us the gear, and I'm getting excited, right? I'm like, wow, this stuff is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went into the dark room and he showed the print being developed, and you see that image coming up in the developer,
Mm-hmm.
that was it. Like, I really got hooked right there. Ironically, we're not even in the dark room anymore, but that love of imaging started there, and I'm still there. I'm still
Wow.
in that space where I just love it. I love what I do. I love what other people do. I've been teaching at Parsons, and I love what my students do. I'm just into this.
Wow. And you've been doing this for 30 years. 30
Yeah,
plus
man.
years, I would say, right?
Yes, yeah.
30 plus years. That
I
is a
am an
long time.
OG.
Yeah. Well, the OGs is where is that? That's where we get our learnings from. That's where
Yeah.
we understand. You still do a lot of dark room work.
No, actually, I don't. I
Okay.
don't do darkroom work anymore.
Okay.
I'm just fine in a digital space.
Okay.
All the tools that you see in Photoshop come from the physical world.
Yes.
Um, and my personal belief is that it's the image more than it is the process.
Mm.
I know that there was a process before film,
Yes.
and so when we made the switch to digital, my reasoning was always, hey, imagine the guys that were doing wet plate photography.
Yes.
You're an alchemist, you're mixing your own light sensitive material. Imagine telling them, hey, we're going to go to plastic provided by another party.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some purists in that space that were like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, like the ones that did the glass, like the ones that did the, photograph on the
Exactly.
glass, put the glass fusion
Exactly.
in, and they're probably
Exactly.
like, what's that thing
What
called?
is that?
Darkroom.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so, you know, um, I think modernization is something not to be feared and to
Yes.
embrace. And also, you need players in any modern space
Mhm.
that have, kindness and love as part of their DNA. I mean,
Mhm.
because for me, it's like I actually remember wondering when I was in the dark room working with those toxic chemicals, like,
Yes.
I know how toxic these chemicals are, and we're washing them down the drain. Like, where is this going? What is this
Where's it
doing?
going?
And so I kind of applaud, digital photography in that there is definitely less of the toxic residue that you get from, film, chemicals, and even if you're a vegan, film is gelatin based, so there's animal
Yes.
product in that. So
Yes.
it's got, so
Yeah,
that's
you
that's
you
that's my thing. That's
well,
my
you
thing.
bring up something that's really interesting, like, from I remember when I took photography in junior high school. I don't know why we had a photography class, but we did, and we and we had to go into this dark room, and the what deterred me, I don't know why I was instinctively that way as a child and as a 13-year-old,
Mhm.
was the chemicals. I
Mhm.
freaked me out. I was like, "I don't know what's in the chemicals."
They were intense, man. I
They
mean,
were intense, and you
the
would
fixer
smell it.
used to make me cough. I always remembered if I got too close
Yes.
to the fixer, it would rush into my chest. I could still
Yes.
feel that. And you know, I remember what it was like to have your fingers in stop bath, So it's just like,
Ugh.
it
Yeah, that
was a thing, man.
liquid,
It was a
and
thing.
moving it from one thing to the next, like, from
Yeah.
one basin to the next basin to the
Mhm.
next,
I
and
mean, now don't get me wrong. I actually really enjoyed the process of
yes.
darkroom. It was fascinating to me. It was like magic. But yeah, those chemicals, man, they're real.
Those chemicals were real. That was the thing that was like, "Okay, maybe not," and then I was excited when I saw, the film, like, when you put the little cartridge in the back of the camera,
Yeah.
and you pull the film
Yep.
out, and then you tie it down and wrap it around, and
Uh-huh.
I was happy about that because and then I just sitting out to the drugstore and waiting patiently. What it took us like 10 to 12 days to get our photos back
Oh
then.
wow, yeah. Yeah. I do miss aspects of the darkroom though. I miss loading film in the dark in metal reels
Right.
successfully, and I miss the manipulation of the print. You
Mhm.
know, it was a fun time.
Now, do you do all your editing, or do you send your editing out, or
I send my
are you
editing.
part of the process, or someone learns your technique and then you send it
I
out?
I send it out. I have a variety of different I like to call them retouchers.
Okay.
Um and different price points for different gigs and
Yes.
different skill sets for different gigs. Um I never particularly liked spending too much time on the computer. The only thing that I can do on the computer where I can spend all day on and not feel the pain is video editing. For some reason,
Mm,
I get lost in that. But that aside, I never particularly liked retouching. In fact, oh, they call it editing these days. In fact, even in college, I had a class in the analog space that was
okay.
retouching or editing. And I dropped the class. It was the only class I'd ever had that I dropped because I realized that this is not something that I'm interested in. And
Wow.
that I just need to tailor my career in a way that if ever I need that, I should be able to afford to hire that person.
I love it. I love it.
And then
I
also
do.
you have to realize in the space in a lot of black media, when I was young in the business, the budgets weren't as large and there wasn't that readily accessible Photoshop. So you kind of had to learn how to make things, look great in camera.
When you mentioned black media, and I mean, and I notice a lot of your work really gives. I mean, you do all genres of work, but you really have maintained your career in really supporting black periodicals, black journalism, black, um, kind of like you've left a trail along your career, even though you've done stuff outside of that. Was that intentional, or or was it just is something that just happened because of the provisions of jobs in the black community versus in the the white community? And because it could be very competitive when you get to a certain level in your careers.
It's you know what you touched on all the points. It's really all of the above. The first starting is just naturally, I'm black. I travel in
Mhm.
black circles, so I'm going to be a part of that, community. So
Yes.
there's that. Then, I was raised in a very proud black home, and so I always looked at the image making part of it as, my contribution to
Mhm.
the narrative of our people and our beauty. So, for instance, when I was testing models, I thought it was important that the black model had as much of a chance to a great photograph as the white model, and as much of a chance to great light as the white.
Yes.
So that was important to me. Um, but I also wanted to be able to branch out and do other things. So I have worked in other mediums and other areas with other people because I'm not particularly a racist. I like people,
Yes, yes.
and so it's not a problem for me to photograph in other spaces with other races and still enjoy the process and still want to do my best work.
Yeah, you have worked with some incredible people, and I'm going to pop some of this up. And if you want to talk about some of these, you're more than welcome to share the story behind them. And but I have one that I am
Yeah,
totally going to ask
I'm
about.
curious. I'm curious. Go.
And this dude is one of my favorite people. And when
All
I
right.
saw this spread, I was like, no one could do this and pull this off like this man. This guy is amazing.
He's an amazing guy, and very often what happens is you get an amazing subject, and it's just your job to be aware, present, and capture what the subject is giving you.
Mm,
And he was just super creative. Um,
unbelievable. I
and
mean,
so he basically made the images, and it's just like, okay, well, let me make sure that I'm here to catch up to what he's putting down.
wow. I sat there and said, man, when I saw this post on Instagram, I just kept going back. I kept going over and over and over again because
And
you also shared some really, I mean, you shared like the heart of this photo shoot.
yeah, and you're never alone in a photo shoot like this. So you have to give credit to the subject,
Yes.
and then also the stylist,
Yes.
um, and the creative direction, your hair and makeup team,
Yes.
your set building folks, your first assistant and lighting folks, all those credits. I want you guys to, I'm not going to make it easy for you. Do the deep dive, go take a look and
Yes. That's what I
find the
say. Go
names,
do your homework, right?
find the names of those folks. But it's actually, I want to quote a colleague of mine that talked about fashion photography in particular.
Yes.
Um, Baron, if you don't know Baron is the guy who did the Biggie photo, the Mona Lisa of hip hop, Biggie with the crown.
Okay. Okay.
And Baron and I were talking once, and he was saying about fashion. He's like, "Well, that's not your work." He's like, "Because there's so much else going on." And I thought that was very interesting. And so you're sharing the photographs with a whole team of people that are
Yes.
part of the creative process.
Yeah. It's
And
a
this happened to be
whole,
one of those days where you had everybody on point.
it's a production.
Yeah.
Because when I look at your footage, your back scene footage, and all the people on set, it really reminds me of watching someone put together a movies. It's very that environment. You got all the people in the background. There's people
Yeah, and I
looking and
I love the
analyzing.
energy of that, man. There's nothing more fun to me than being in that room with everybody, building this, project together.
Yeah. So
You've got it's a very lights, camera, action.
Mike, another question is do you come up with the ideas, or for instance, like this one with the long dress and his
No, 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 no.
masculinity showing with this,
So
the
in this case, the original concept was the editor in chief at the time of Ebony, Mario Bobo.
mm,
And she is a conceptual genius. And so you usually have a handful of art directors that you work with who you enjoy that work day because you're going to get amazing work. They're either going to push you,
yes.
beyond your capabilities, or at least they're in the same space that you are, and so it's going to be a great day. Um, and so she was one of that. So this was her direction to start.
Mhm.
And, we would meet and go over mood boards and collaborate and kind of
Wow.
plan, select backdrops, select the set together. Um, she, I, and, another creative on our team, Rashida. And
Mhm.
so we would submit our mood boards and come together. My experience was always that Mario's mood board was always the one.
Right, right.
um, and then she would takes the concept to the stylist and says, "This is what we're going to do." And so the fashion becomes the job of the styling, and um, I think Jan was the stylist on this. I don't want to flub her name,
Mhm.
but her creative direction with the styling was amazing. And then you also have, the great designer Willie, who did the, a lot of the fashion in black in particular. That was
Wow.
Willie Charivario's amazing pieces. And so, it's just a matter of being able to capture that stuff, in a great way.
Man, and look at all you've had the opportunity to photograph some really cool people that I think are the most. I mean, these are really some of my
Thank you.
favorite actors.
Yeah, this was a great run. Great
Look at
run.
this. Yeah, like she is. She's on HBO. I do believe it's HBO.
Yeah,
And
Issa, yeah,
uh,
yeah. That's a lot of fun photographing her, particularly
sh-
when you're talking to someone who's who you admire and have a chance
yes.
to ask her questions about her show and things like that.
And here's another one, Coleman
I mean,
Domingo.
it's amazing, amazing guy. What was really fun about this particular shoot? We staged it in two different cities. We did Coleman in New York,
Yes.
and we also did Shamik Moore in New York. But we had to travel to Atlanta to do scroll up a bit.
Uh huh.
Scroll up a bit. I want to show this stuff. Yeah, we had to travel to Atlanta to do the John Boyega, the guy in the middle, and
Uh-huh.
we had to bring this set that we built to Atlanta and execute it in a way that fit with the others.
Ah.
Yeah, so that was interesting because you sort of have to take the lights, camera, action, and work with a completely different crew. Like I didn't have any of my first assistants; it was just myself and Marielle. But after that, it's the Atlanta crew, and translating all the things that we want to do with the Atlanta crew. Also, we brought our stylist with us, our set designer,
Okay.
yeah, with us. But
Man, these photos, I mean, when you're on these shoots, what are three things that are required everywhere you go? Like if you go because you're in you are asked to photograph in different places. Like you say Atlanta, you're in New York, in
yeah, the documentary
LA.
I'm looking at is in Los Angeles.
What
Yeah.
are three things that are you must have in all these locations? They must provide or you must have with you. What are three things that you must have to execute your
That is an interesting question because I've been in situations where I've had less than what I needed and been able to produce.
wow?
I you know, Ideally, I would like to have my camera,
Mm-hmm.
whatever camera I'm using at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Although if I had to use another camera, I could. But
Mm-hmm.
my camera, um, some form of light, be it uh, strobe or continuous light or even daylight, just the opportunity of where is the lighting, and for the comfort of the subjects and for my own peace of mind, uh, food and music.
Food and music.
That's kind of four things, kind of
Well, they
cheap.
say you can't have a photo shoot without food and music.
Yeah.
Even when I have my clients that come here or to like my little studio here and I'm getting ready to photograph them, one of the things I ask them, I say, who are your favorite artists? And because I have my Alexa in here, I can say, okay, Alexa, play this. And then
Right.
we do the photo shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. But that it's funny because I tend to find that you have to kind of roll with the punches too. So
Yes.
I don't really think about the three things that I must have as much as with every photo shoot you think about what the end game is, in terms of what is the deliverable, what
Hmm.
needs to be delivered, and what do I need to get that.
Nice. So now, since you're on these, since we're talking about shoot, because this is your career. You are known for these photos, the magnitude, the drama, the sophistication of the work. What are some of the difficulties you've encountered over the years in doing this kind of production work? What are some like maybe we'll go with three since three is a good number. What are the three things that you found that is consistently a difficult, but you've overcome them?
Ah, the first difficulty is that the client's vision, the magazine's vision, may not be yours,
Mm,
may not be your taste. It may not be what you really want to do,
mm-hmm,
but you're being paid to execute, you're being asked to execute. And so you have to find a way to um, put aside your tastes, your ego, and find a way to listen and cooperate. That's
mm,
probably the most difficult thing to learn at first because you come out of your personal experience, whether it's school or you don't have to go to school to be a photographer. I did, but you don't necessarily have to. But once you get into the professional space, you find that clients, art directors, whatever, they want what they want, and you may want something else, and you've got to learn how to navigate that space.
mm-hmm,
you know and if their ask is either impossible or not even in their own best interest, you have to find a polite way to steer them in the right direction.
Wow.
So that's one of the biggest tricks, is sort of like being able to humble yourself enough to allow everyone in the room to be able to say what they need to say
Mm-hmm.
and get their agendas met.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So
So that's I think that's the biggest lesson, you know.
that would be the
Because
biggest lesson.
yeah, because you know, not everybody's always on the same page, and there's often somebody in the room who is the boss and it needs to be their page.
Have you ever been in a position where you're all ready, you have the project done. I mean, I should say the project is about to happen. You have the backdrops are there, the lighting is there, the director, creative director, stylist, everyone is there, everything is ready to be executed, and then something happens and you say, "Oh, I got to be out. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. I'm out." Has it ever been a moment where
No,
you got frustrated or you
no,
got a little like, you know what, this is not what I signed up for, I'm out?
no. Oh, the closest I've come to that was I was photographing a recording artist um, back in my live work studio, a much smaller gig,
Mm-hmm.
and he was dictating a lot of things. Um, and I said to him, finally, he's really frustrating me. He had showed me his own creativity or whatever, and he's really just kind of pushing me around in a lot of different ways about what it is we were going to do. And so finally I said to him, look, you know, you've got to let me do my job. Like, you know, what you're doing is as if I came into the studio and told you, you know, what it is you need to do with your music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I think what happens is, as African Americans, our music is the avant-garde. We are
Mm.
literally the best on the planet at what we do,
Yes.
you know, or African people in general, because you cannot discount what's going on with Nigerian music, right?
Yes.
So it's brilliant. It's brilliance, right? It's like forward brilliance. So I find what happens is that because of that, the Black musician, because they're so amazing at what they do, they're sure that they're the best at everything. And in many cases, they're very good at a lot of things. But what
Yes.
happens is their egos get to a place where they dictate all of the show. And I told this guy that I'm like, this is what happens. And it's like, and today's not that day, man, because you're not, this is not that day. And he's like, he just insulted me. But after that, um, after that, it's like we got to a great place and I started taking great photographs. And in the end, he thanked me and he appreciated me, you know, and he appreciated that I shared that with him. And I tried,
Nice.
you know, but that was the closest I'd come to that. Usually, you know, you have to find ways to work with your team. I noticed somebody else had put up in the comments that they had that problem as a stylist, you know, just dealing with everyone's rules and everyone's personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see Omar said you can't stifle other people's creativity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You really ought to. When I made the turn, I got to a place where I realized that everybody wanted the same thing.
Yes.
Everybody wants a great shoot and a great experience. Now,
Yes.
we all might have different ways to get there and different opinions about how that looks. But if I just remember that we all want the same thing, then I can fall back and allow for everybody's opinions to be heard. Now, I know what my job is. At some point, my job is to select what works and move the ship forward. So sometimes there's yeses and there's nos.
Yes.
Um, Actually, I had a funny. Now that there was one other instance too. I was shooting Monica. It was part of the
Oh,
whole "girl is mine" thing.
yes, the girl is mine.
And I was shooting some singles with Monica in Atlanta, and her cousin was just like this one. You know, you have this one person in the room that has an opinion about everything, but they really aren't a creative. And she's like, "You should do this, and you should do that, and you're not doing this right, and you're not doing that right." And I just let her talk. You know, I was just doing my job, you know, because I don't let that stuff really get to me. But at
Yes.
one point, she's sitting on the side, and I'm setting up a shot that I really love. And she's like, "I don't like that. You should do it from over here." And I'm like, and so what
What?
I do is I walk over to where she is, because also sometimes what I learned over time is you know, two heads are better than one. So sometimes people have a good suggestion, right? I
Yes.
go over to where she's standing to see, and I get down and I look from where she's looking and I go, nah, I don't like this. And I go back to the other thing and the whole room goes, oh, and then she finally left me alone for the rest of the day. Which I didn't need to shut her down that way. Like it was
Yes.
just sort of like it just sort of something that sort of happened. So that was kind of funny.
But what you did
But
do is that
but
you did give her a chance. You did say,
I
"You know
I will
what? I'm
always
gonna just
do
see
that
what it looks
because
like."
I've learned that some of the best ideas have come from people on the side of the set. Um,
Yeah.
that point out things that I wasn't aware of. So you
And
have
oh,
I think
oh,
awareness is the biggest.
almost laughing on that one.
Oh,
And so that
somebody's asking, do you work with the same team with every artist? I tend to work with similar, often the same group of people, but it's not always the same team. But there's a certain amount of, like, for instance, you have my pool of assistants that kind of like travels with you, and it's like you have that pool for a few years until they move on to other things. Then you have a new pool, and it's the same thing with stylists and hair and makeup.
wow.
So at a particular moment, you might have the same team, but that team changes project to project or year to year.
Here's another question. Since you are a New Yorker, but it may not be where
New Yorker,
you are New Yorker.
the
So
native.
you of all the places in the world, whether it be the cities, what would you say is your favorite city that you photographed in?
I love working in LA.
Really?
They have, and it's funny, I would not want to live there. And I figured out what it was because whenever I go, it's magical and
Hmm.
it's always a great job. And so
Yes.
if I lived there, it would become, after a while, I'm sure it would become just routine in another city. And, you know,
Yeah.
so I get to, keep it in a special place and and I love living in New York. But I really love working in LA because they have all the toys. I mean, they do movies there.
Yes.
And so as a still photographer, you have everything you could possibly want
Hmm.
at your disposal. Great crews, great teams. The daylight there is brighter than it is in New York, literally brighter. Like if you take your meter out, I want you to try this. Try a similar situation in
Yeah.
daylight in New York and go to the daylight in LA. You'll find it's literally 2 stops faster.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. So it would be that. But in terms of living, the only place I've ever been that I didn't want to come home was Paris.
Ooh, I'm with you.
Because
Now,
even in LA, like
why is it?
eventually I want to come
Why
home.
is it for you? What do you love about Paris?
I don't know. It just felt like it had all the trappings of the cities that I like with
Hmm.
an extra like attention to beauty and art.
Yes, I'm the same way. The community here, my community here. No, I've mentioned it. As a matter of fact, I was saying if I had to live outside of the country, my first choice was going to be Paris. I had to make some adjustments in that thought, but Paris is like the one of my favorite places to go. It's it's the old, it's the new, it's the food, it's the culture, it's the glamour, it's the subdued, it's the grunge, there's so many elements in Paris that make for an amazing experience. And I say you can never have a bad time in Paris, at least from my point of view. But I would say the same thing. Those are the things that fascinate me about Paris. Jamel Shabazz says, one of the highlights of my career was working with Keith. I gained a wealth of knowledge from him, an incredible photographer, and all around person. Nothing but respect.
Oh wow, thank you, Jamel. Jamel is a great colleague. He and I did a project together with Spike DDB, and I had the good fortune of being a lighting tech for Jamel, and that was really cool. He's a great dude. Like I
Yeah.
just love, he's a treasure. He's a national treasure.
Yes.
That's a good thing. I see Lisa Seeley. I want to say one thing about stylists. I feel like styling is the job. I feel like it's the hardest job in fashion, and it is the one. Um, So kudos and respects to all the stylists out there, stylists that I've worked with, stylists that I haven't worked with. It's a tough, tough gig because you have to have all of the things. You have to have the eye, you have to be hip enough to know the trends, you have to have the political savvy to
Mm,
procure the clothes, you have to have the responsibility of taking care of the clothes, you have to have the responsibility of returning the clothes. You have to
yes.
be in bed with a good tailor should something get damaged or you need alterations on set. You have to be in bed with a good uh, cleaners in case something gets damaged and has to get cleaned. It's just
Hmm.
you have no idea the intense detail that they go through.
Wow.
Yeah, so in most big productions, they're usually the first on set and the last to leave. In the
Wow.
biggest productions, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that we have a couple. We have, New York has a lot of stylists, and I met one stylist. I had a photograph of someone running for office in New York State, and she was hired for the photo shoot down in Battery Park, and she knew, like you just said, her brain and their brain to I should say their brains are wired to see anomalies. So when they're on the set, they see everything that is, maybe this is has a crinkle in it or the thread is out here. Their attention to detail is incredible too.
Yeah, and also the narrative. Like
Yeah.
they know what is the story we're trying to tell,
Yeah.
and is the photo play consistent with the story that we're trying to tell. So it's a big deal.
Wow. So as we get closer to the end hour here, because I don't want I know you're a busy man, you got lots to do. Where Man, 30 years in the industry, you photographed some of the most amazing actors, actresses, athletes, politics. Um, what have you not done that you want to do, and it hasn't happened yet?
Wow, what have I not done that I would want to do and that hasn't happened yet? It's a good question. Because it's funny. I reached a point in my life where I had realized all my dreams, and it's like, what do I do next? So this
Oh,
question is always a really challenging one. So it becomes kind of simple in that there are some people that I haven't photographed.
yes,
I haven't photographed Pharrell. I haven't photographed Jay-Z. So it's those few people that I haven't done yet
yes.
that I'd like to photograph. So that's the first thing that rushes to my mind. Um, I missed my opportunity to get people like a Nelson Mandela. So
Right.
certainly, like, if if you're a black treasure, I'd certainly like to do that, like get portraits of that person. Um, and I guess what I'd like to do is finish this project that I'm currently working on, which is a coffee table book. So
Okay.
I want to do that, and it's been everybody who knows me knows it's been long overdue, and I'm taking an insanely long time, but it's coming.
Well, the good thing about that, the reason why it's taking a long time is because it's judging from what our time that we spent together. We hung out when Omar was in town, and we all were talking and sharing about so many things. And judging from watching you online, watching your website, watching what you do, hearing your conversation, I really believe you are probably making sure everything is top notch to every letter, every T is crossed, every I is dot, every camera click is worth the moment of being on that page. And so I believe great work takes time.
It
So
does.
it takes time. Not to go into politics, but this is the since we are in a new
Orange
administration, we're in a
politics.
new world. But I know you and I roll the same
It's good.
way. So
I mean,
I couldn't
honestly,
resist.
it's just like my frustrations come from
Yes.
mostly that we need caring, compassion, and togetherness. And the idea that the world's leaders are seem to be more interested in exploiting the people than working towards the greater good
Yes.
is a frustrating place for me. I am convinced that the powers that be have it within their means to do right by the people, and they can still keep their wealth
Yes.
and and privileges, you know. And it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I just feel like I'm frustrated with the backwardness
Mhm.
of thought, the unwillingness to be greater, the
Yeah.
unwillingness to do good things for people, um, to work together to build a better society and a better planet. I mean, I would imagine that, if I had that kind of power and wealth, that would be what I would do. And I would imagine that if all of those same leaders were better people, we would love and respect them
Yes.
and build monuments to them. However,
Yeah.
they choose to. I've learned over time that wealth does not necessarily equate with intelligence.
Yes.
Wealth does not necessarily equate with compassion and caring. And and unfortunately, we look at wealthy, famous as a certain kind of success that isn't necessarily a real success. The real
Yes.
success is, I believe, is family and having good family and caring for those around you,
Yes.
um, and growing emotionally mature in a way where you're kind to people and you try your best not to hurt or harm anybody.
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you
That's
with
success to me. And I just wish that more people would be inspired to do better,
yeah.
especially the leadership. All of these oligarchs who are currently on hell bent on amassing extreme amounts of wealth at the expense of all of the people.
And my thing is, how rich can you how for most of these billionaires, and now we are now going into what soon will be the trillionaire people, is like how rich these people have so much money, they will they could even spend it in their lifetime. And you think about why why not invite your workers, like for instance, at Amazon or a different brands like even Facebook or Meta and Starbucks, all these companies. Why I don't understand the mindset of the differential of being that gap of salary that the person's up here making millions and millions and millions and millions, and all they need to do is take two of those millions, and it would help so many of
Yeah,
the people
yeah.
that
It
brought
just it
those
doesn't.
millions to
It's
them.
just so bizarre because nobody's replacing you,
Yes.
and so why not do better?
Yes.
You know, if a higher intelligence came to this planet and saw this, they would say you are foolish and stupid.
Yeah. Crazy.
You're crazy. It makes no sense at all. You know,
Yeah. So
none.
we're on the same page there. So there's a lot of advocacy going on right now. People are like, where are the black leaders? Where are all the people? I mean, it's been Roland Martin has been doing some things this week. It's been really over the last since the election, I should say since the inauguration, he's been really trying to gather the community together. And there are people trying to, but the outrage right now is, where are the Democrats? Where are the independents? Where are the Republicans that are not for this guy? And
Yeah, I
why
mean,
aren't these people
I think the new
moving?
zeitgeist is to find ways to tear down because everybody wants a new deal, if you will,
Yeah.
which is an old term from Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yes, right. Yeah, the New Deal.
What happened to that kind of? Anyway, the labels and the divisions, the whole system is broken. So
Yeah.
the labels and the divisions have to come down, and everybody who's victim of the the oligarch suppression, I think we just need to come together. And every one of those facets, whether you be Latin or Asian or poor white or middle class white or black, um, we all have to come together to make this a better place. The two-party system has failed us. And so, yeah, if you were in the Republican camp, but you're not a MAGA Republican and you don't like what's happening to the government, yeah, they need to be on the team. And if you call yourself a Democrat, but you're not unhappy with the Democratic Party, they need to be on, we all need to be on the same team. I'm a registered voter, but I'm not registered with any party.
Same here.
Even when I was very young, I knew that neither party really truly represented my interests. And I have my qualms about voting recently. Before I really believed in it. Now it's like, but I just would like to see us find ways to come together for a new way of being.
Wow.
I don't really think it's that. We all know everybody's in the same
We are
spot.
stronger together. We are
Yeah,
stronger
there are more of
together.
us than them, and everybody knows that.
Yes.
We all just want, food and shelter and our families to be well. And we want that for everyone else too.
You say something that is I repeat over and over again in all my travels, and having the opportunity to travel overseas, and I know you've traveled probably 10 times more. That is the constant global theme.
Yeah.
They want to be able to love, able to be loved, able to provide shelter for the people that they love, and live a basic and simple life. They want food, clothing, and housing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's something here that's really interesting.
Yes.
I gotta come into this. It's funny because Omar asked, would you do Trump's portrait if you were hired by a
Ooh.
Now that is a tough question. I actually did photograph Trump years ago, in about 2008 for TV1 with Omarosa.
Really?
This was about 2008. And my takeaway was I had never been in a room with a human being and I said this to myself then, I had never been in a room with a human being that could be in a room full of people and be by himself. His narcissism is next level. It's an illness. And I think what it is we all live as the center of our universe. Like I'm in my body talking to you guys. Every one of us is in their body experiencing this right now. But I understand that we are all like that, right?
Yes.
I don't think he's capable of understanding that.
Yeah.
I think he actually really it's as if he can only see himself. That was the experience I had being with him in that room.
Wow.
And I was blown away by that. And
well,
this was 2008. So we're talking 8 years before 2016. Like there was no him running for president.
Yeah.
Consequently, about a couple of years after that, I actually photographed his wife, Melania, for another Upper East Side socialite magazine. And my takeaway from that was, here's somebody who was very comfortably a trophy wife.
Yes.
And I am convinced that if she knew that he was going to run for president, she would have picked a different wealthy guy. I don't think she wanted that smoke.
No, well, you see, when as soon as they got out of the White House, she didn't want to have anything to do with it. But now she's forced back into the arena.
Right. So now, would I photograph him now for a major magazine? I should say no straight away, right? It's hard for me, if I'm honest with you, it's hard for me to say that. But at the same time, I'd have to look at all the parameters, right?
Yes.
Because I can't support what he does.
Yeah.
So if the article was about, in simple language, Trump is dangerous.
Yes.
Trump is, not healthy for the planet.
Yes.
Then maybe I'd do the photograph. But if it were, in support of of what he does, then I know I'd have to turn it down.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean, it's yeah.
that
I,
is
in my gut, mostly like it's no. I mean, I did it back then because he wasn't the president. He was only Donald Trump,
yeah.
you know, and I never took that person that seriously ever.
No one did.
Right?
But we
But
in
I
New
didn't,
York,
in New York, we knew who he
we
was,
knew who he was.
but yeah.
Anthony says, I said the same thing. She's never comfortable. I
Yeah.
know. I think the choice in her clothing told us a lot for the inauguration day. I mean, not that I try to read into things like that, but I do. I'm that guy that's like, why did she? Because Melania seems to pick her wardrobe to tell a message, and that people gave her a hard time with the distance. It kept the hat. She looked. I mean, she's got it below her eyes. He went to try to kiss her, but he couldn't kiss her because the brim was in the way. Keep your distance, but you stay near, but keep your distance. But yeah, so that was a good question, Omar. I love that question. So now as we close out, you get the last word. But usually I would like to say I asked a question on this last word is if you could go back to your 16-year-old self, what would you tell yourself about your future? What-
I would say, don't rent that studio in Manhattan. Buy property.
Mm,
It's just that simple.
just that simple.
That's the only
Don't
thing.
rent it,
Everything else is
buy it.
fine. Just don't rent that. Don't rent that space. Take that money and buy.
It's interesting you would say that when I was younger, my mom's boyfriend at the time, he said to me, I had got my first job as on Wall Street. I was excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm working on Wall Street. And he said, son, make sure you save your money and buy some property. And he says, you will be forever grateful to yourself if you buy property. He says, don't be the rent game, be a buyer game. Buy your apartment and then enjoy the benefits or your home or your house. I ended up buying an apartment because I lived in a brownstone
Mhm.
and I was like, the brownstone, and I didn't want to have tenants. so so I ended up buying my apartment. But he
Nice.
was right. I
Yeah.
told him just last week, I was talking to him and I said, I owe my little wealth that I have to you
Yeah.
schooling me at 21 years old, 20 years old, and saying, get a piece of pride. Don't be like these dudes out here buying the gold, buying a car, buying
Right.
this. He said, the first thing I want you to do is save up and
Yeah.
get yourself property.
Exactly.
It's the best thing that ever happened.
So do that, folks.
So do it. I love that. That's a great, great, great suggestion. Okay, man.
Thank you.
I
Thank
could
you so
talk to
much,
you
Ron. Thank
all
you for
day.
having me. Thank you so much. And thank everybody online for watching and for your questions. We didn't get to everybody, but thank you for your participation.
And you can find Keith on IG at Keith Major. You can also go to his website, and I guarantee you, if you go to his website, take some time out, you will be like, it's like it's a vacation. You can go there and stay there for probably about an hour because you'll be captivated by all the photos. And if you love photography, like most of the people in this community, it is really an experience to go to his website, which you've already seen the website. But his IG is the same way. He's always sharing politics and his stories and highlighting different folks that are putting things out in the world, creativity. So guys, follow his work. Pray for this brother for his book, and that
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to see the book. I can't wait to
Thank you
buy the
so
book.
much.
And I collect books. And yeah, so Keith, I can't tell you how I am so thankful that you joined me on this
And
platform.
I'm thankful. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, this is great. So guys, Now it's time to say goodbye. So, guys, I will see you all to Minyana. And
Mhm.
thank you again, Keith. And
Oh,
thank
you're
you, everybody,
welcome.
for
You're
joining
welcome.
us. And we are out of here. Thank you so
Au
much.
revoir.